Hope everybody is well. This is Nick McCreary, co-founder of Jobs4Football. Great to have you with us. We also have Darren, our co-founder, and David. Welcome, David Cohen from Cheltenham Town.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Brilliant. No problem at all. No problem at all. Listen, from my side, we just want to give a little kind of background. So Jobs4Football will be doing this with our members, basically engaging with them, getting them to tell their story in terms of how their pathway has benefited from the assistance and the services of Jobs4Football moving forward. And David's story is a really interesting one for me. And from my side, he studied Middle Eastern studies, was it, at university?
It was, yeah.
Any reason for that, David, or?
So I'm not from a football background, so it was sort of more to the politics, geography, history side that I went. So it went into university without having football on my mind at all, really.
Yeah. But then when you're at university, you must have played Football Manager a lot, because that was the real catalyst for you to get into football, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was lockdown. Didn't go to my lectures because I wasn't the best at that. Stuck in my room with a COVID test in hand, just smashing out 10 hours a day on Football Manager.
Fantastic. Any particular team that you were involved with or took from non-league to Premier League and Champions League?
So I have my Swedish club that I do every year is AIK, so I've got a bit of a soft spot for them. I always do a manager career trying to take them and win the Champions League.
Awesome. No, well, listen, from my side, David, like I say, absolute pleasure to have you on. I certainly and the team really have enjoyed working with you through your career pathway. But tell us about your football journey, kind of pre-Jobs4Football. Give us a little kind of synopsis, a little background.
Yeah, so as I said, I was always interested in football. I'm a Cheltenham Town fan. I grew up watching them as a season ticket holder for 2-3 years. As I got older, played Football Manager a lot. Loved the sort of tactics side of the game. In lockdown, I sort of decided I want to start writing about it. So one of my friends, Luke Griffin, ran a scouting website, asked if I could write for him, started writing about the Polish league. It was one of the free leagues, so I started watching that.
Brilliant.
Really enjoyed it. And it went from there. I sort of asked clubs near me kind of help out with analysis, as well as writing stuff online. Coached my uni women's football team. Did a part-time analysis for multiple different clubs, Bristol City, a college in America, which was great. Again, a few local non-league clubs. Then decided, I'm going to follow this further. Yeah. Did a master's in analysis. Did an internship with West Ham Women, and then worked a couple of other jobs, and then eventually landed my first team full-time role at Cheltenham Town, which also the club I support. So it has worked out pretty perfectly for me.
Awesome. And I think you're doing yourself a little bit of a kind of injustice, because as you can imagine, in the office, we must speak to 100+ candidates on a weekly basis, more. And when I started engaging with you, because I believe you took the career coaching service with us. When we started engaging, when we started engaging, what I found was you had the drive, you had the passion, you knew where you wanted to be, but you just didn't know the steps to take to get there. And that's something that we have on a daily basis with not just people leaving university and college, but also A-licensed coaches, who potentially are bored and are sick of the roundabout of the UK market. How do I get out? What's the next step? How can I basically upskill or educate myself? So I think that's kind of where you kind of were at that time. But one thing that really kind of got me interested in your profile and this is a tip for everybody as well, think of the amount of profiles, candidates that we're speaking to. How can you be different? And the one thing that made you different, David, when I was speaking to you as a consultant was so many times we hear, but Nick, I've not got experience. Oh, but Nick, yeah, I'm only 17, I'm only 18, I've not got experience. There is no excuse for that anymore. Like you said, try and post social media regarding analysis. Anything you've got a passion for, get it out there. The market is there for you to see. And the best thing that you did, and this is what you really didn't kind of promote yourself there, you went to every single local non-league club, isn't that right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Every single non-league club. And Taunton opened the door to you. You knew that Taunton did not have an analysis department in any way, but you did know they had a VEO camera and they had a Y-Scout. Now, that was a start. So if you just went in there, basically took over the whole, set up the analysis department, and, you're not doing it for £300, £400 a week. You're doing it because you're passionate and you wanted to get that experience. So yeah, kind of how was that going into a club that had nothing, David? How did that kind of play out?
Yeah, first of all, I was quite lucky because I was still a student. I could, work for a club for free, which is, you've sort of got that window as being a student where you can sort of do that because obviously, certain circumstances you're not able to do that. So I was very fortunate to do that. But yeah, initially I was going in, talk to the coaching staff, look, what do you want from me? Here's the set of skills that I have. Here's what I can provide with sort of a limited setup. And yeah, and we worked out, this is what we want to see from opposition, what we want to see sort of monthly, every 10 match sort of reports, looking at players, filming games. And I went everywhere. We had sort of 10-hour trips to Dover on a Tuesday night, and I did it for free.
Nice.
I loved it, and it was worth it because you're getting that exposure to a reasonable level. We were National League South, so we were playing some professional clubs in our league, and it was it was just getting exposed to non-stop Saturday, Tuesday football, and sort of working on your feet and trying to solve problems. You don't just have loads of money to splash and solve a problem. It was to problem solve.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like I say, I think in the role you would have had to be very reactive as well as being proactive, because like you say, when you've not got that kind of budget to get the best of, you have to try and find workarounds. And I'm sure you did that kind of on a number of occasions. So moving forward from that, Taunton was a great experience. You mentioned your time working, I think it was Louisiana, was it, in the US?
Yeah, that was great. I saw it on Twitter, I think, and luckily got invited over for an interview and got it. And it was just coding games for them. Sort of, they played Saturday evenings usually, so I was sort of 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning coding a game. But yeah, they were great actually. Fantastic coaching staff, and I really thoroughly enjoyed my time there. And yeah, it was a really good sort of springboard for me.
Brilliant, and that. Definitely. And it kind of opened up, I know you coached women's football, but it did open up the women's game as well, which obviously is booming over in the US as well as it is in the UK at this time. So moving forward from those experiences, what were the challenges that you faced when you were applying for roles? Was it just kind of blank nose, or were you getting to interview? Kind of where were you on that spectrum?
So it was a bit of a mix. So once I'd sort of done my undergrad and before I started my master's, I did apply for a few full-time jobs. But nowadays, I'd say a good 80% of full-time analyst jobs, at least in the UK, are requiring master's degrees. Obviously, not all. You can certainly get one without it, and it's not a prerequisite. But I didn't feel like I had a massive amount of experience to sort of negate not having a master's degree. So it was just about taking that next year to not only complete the Masters, but also gain further full-time professional experience in the game.
Yeah. So like I say, you were just applying to roles, whether it was abroad, whether it was in the Premier League, whether it was in non-league, just to get that step into the full-time industry. So how did you kind of come across Jobs4Football, and kind of what kind of made you think, okay, I need the help and the support of these guys to take me to the next stage?
Yeah, so sort of the summer after when I was applying previously, I'd got a bit more full-time experience. But it was, again, not what I wanted. I want to be at a club full-time. And I was sort of, my CV, I felt like it could have been a bit more optimized. I didn't necessarily know how to do it. I was applying for jobs, but I was never really getting past the first stage, or even getting a first stage. And it was, I feel like I've got the ability, but I just don't know how to utilize it. And I was on LinkedIn just browsing through, and I saw your name pop up. I saw a good referral from someone previously who'd got a job, and I thought, let's give it a crack. Nothing else is working. So here goes nothing.
Yeah, no, definitely. So with that in mind, kind of, how did you think that went? I think we went through, the career coaching, didn't we? So for the guys and girls who don't know what the career coaching is with Jobs4Football, basically that's where we look at an individual holistically. So we try to maximize their employability. Again, as you must realize, every job that we're dealing with and clubs deal with, there could be 50, there could be 100, there could be 200 applications. So you have to make yourself different as a candidate. And this is the first thing that we focus on with the career coaching. Build a foundation. I think you would have been sick of me saying to you, David, we need to build your foundation. And the foundation, as we know, was the CV, making sure Darren does a fantastic job, and Liam does as well, making sure it reads well, making sure it maximizes roles, responsibilities, but also achievements, which is a huge thing that many kind of miss out. And again, just being that kind of level above everybody else who is applying. LinkedIn optimization is so important. I'm sure people hear me shouting from the rooftops about LinkedIn and the powers that it has moving forward, especially within the football industry. What you've got to think is, 10 years ago, if you wanted to engage or connect with the CEO of Club Bruges, example, how would you have done it? You would have had to speak to an agent or speak to somebody else who knew somebody else, dropped an email that might not have got there. LinkedIn is so powerful. If you optimize your profile, you have that opportunity to engage with key decision makers who can change your career pathway. And I think, looking at kind of yourself, I think it was firstly aligning you, giving you the confidence. I think that was important for you as well, because you'd had so many knockbacks, David. Did you feel that you were lacking that little bit of confidence, maybe?
I mean, the knockbacks hurt, obviously, of course, getting a rejection hurts, but I felt like I just had to keep going. Like, you're in an industry where, as you said, you've got hundreds of people applying for one job, and you've just got to wait. Like, opportunities do land, and then once you get that, you've got to take it. So it's just persevere, because most of the time, something will work out. Definitely. And I think once we built the foundation, we looked at networking. How do you network now? What are the strategic areas? What strategic clubs do you want to focus on? How can we get into those clubs? And then also we looked at the marketing side of things. And I think we did a Jobs4Football Meets that kind of went out. You've got to remember now, I think we get over a million impressions on a monthly basis just on the website, nearly 100,000 now on LinkedIn. So when our members push media out via our channels, it gets seen. And I think holistically, a mixture of all of those really impacted. But from your side, what do you feel was the fastest impact and probably the biggest impact for you? For me personally, I think the CV made a big difference. I had a CV that I made myself, but I think deep down I knew it wasn't optimized. So you obviously came in, helped, sort of changed it quite dramatically, and sort of it was almost instant from then. In terms of getting interviews, it like completely and dramatically changed sort of my outlook on how it went, really. So that was fantastic.
I remember, David, I was actually, if you can remember, I was actually out. I think we did the sessions. We did 2 or 3 or 4 sessions. Darren and Liam were with the Seco, so it was a complete team effort. And I think we always keep in touch as well in terms of how things are going via WhatsApp. And I remember I was walking the dog, and you came back and says, "Nick, I think you messaged me with a Cheltenham opportunity, or I think you actually had 2 job interviews with a Premier League team as well." So going from not getting much to having Cheltenham and 2 Premier League teams within potentially 3 weeks of the changes, I think that was credit to everybody moving forward. But so yeah, kind of after implementing that change, how quick was it? Was it about 2 weeks or 3 weeks? I think it was.
Yeah, it was after sort of optimizing the CV, but also the LinkedIn as well. It was a matter of 1, 2, 3 weeks. It felt almost instant to me in terms of the timeline that I'd been on. It was very quick, yeah.
And I think that just kind of emphasizes again those little tweaks, those little changes about, like I said before, being different to everybody else. That's what kind of opens the door moving forward. So yeah, at that time, so we've gone from struggling to get an interview to basically 3 in the inbox, 2 with the Premier League, which I think you got to second interview stage. Is that correct? I think.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly which stage it was, but I got an interview offer from a Premier League club, which was great. Yeah.
And then obviously Cheltenham. So how did Cheltenham come around? Give us a little insight with that one.
So obviously followed the club, so I saw they were hiring for an analyst. Applied through the sort of relevant application portal, but I thought that's not enough to get noticed. You've got to go the extra mile and stand out. So I messaged the manager and assistant manager on LinkedIn. Got a reply. Talked to the manager on the phone the same day, and they invited me in for an interview. So it was sort of, bam, there you go. That's what you do to stand out.
And again, for everybody else, within Jobs4Football, this is what we call the 2-touch approach. How many people send a CV in, whether it's Carlisle United, whether it's Cheltenham, whether it's Coventry, and that's it. They sit back, okay, now I'm going to wait to see whether my CV's been accepted or declined. That's not good enough nowadays. And what we taught David was the 2-touch approach. As soon as you've made an application for a job, proactively get on LinkedIn, find out who the decision maker is for that role, and try and connect. And this is the reason why building the foundation for David at the start was so important. He had his CV correct, and most importantly, had his LinkedIn optimized. So that content that you were pushing out, those improvements, those recommendations that we were bringing in, as soon as the clubs came onto the site, they could see your background, your information, the references that you have, and they get comfortable. So that is the 2-touch approach. So anybody who's listening to this or watching this, always look to follow up your CV applications via LinkedIn as well. So yeah, no, listen, from our side, then, I think you had a 2-step interview with Cheltenham. And yeah, was it kind of, did you go into the stadium, or what was the second stage?
Yeah, so they asked me to do a little task on the opposition, as is the case with most analysis jobs. Went to the training ground, gave a presentation. Obviously, they were happy with the content, and went from there. So yeah, it was sort of a really smooth, streamlined process that I was I quite enjoy interviews, weirdly enough. Feel like I'm good at them. So it was a great process.
Yep. No, definitely. So now in your role, how are you enjoying it? What does the day-to-day look like? How's everything going your side?
Yeah, so I'm the only full-time analyst employed by the club at first team level, so it's quite hands-on. I've got a lot of different responsibilities. I suppose like talking for a week in terms of Saturday to Saturday. Obviously, there's a lot of Tuesday games in the EFL and the Cup nowadays, but it's sort of Monday looking at post-match review, and also presenting sort of the initial opposition stuff you have for the next Saturday, filming training, doing any databasing you have long-term on some data visualization like Tableau. Tuesday, again, similar, watching opposition, trying to get prepared for Saturday. Same with Wednesday whilst doing training, working on even more long-term stuff. Thursday, Friday, you're really focusing on the opposition now, getting presentations ready for the players that we usually do over the course of the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then obviously game day, you're looking at live coding, feedback to the bench, any clips they want to see, it's there, and then you're straight back into it. So sort of whilst preparing for that game on the Saturday, if you have a Tuesday game, you're sort of working one game ahead. So you've got a lot of different games going on in your head. You've got to keep track of things. But it's thoroughly enjoyable working for Jobs4Football's obviously a dream, and it's really good stuff, and I hope it continues as it is.
And all those tasks undertaken by one person, eh?
Yeah, luckily I've just brought in an intern who's been an amazing help. But yeah, initially it was just myself, so it's it's quite a lot, but nothing to shirk away from. It's really enjoyable.
100%. Softwares wise, obviously, I know you've got a background within Python, within Tableau. Obviously, you've used Huddle before. Is it kind of much of a muchness in terms of what that type of club would use, or is there any different or niche softwares that are used?
So I think, I don't want to speak too general, but within the EFL and much professional football, sports code is sort of the go-to coding software, and Huddle obviously for video databasing. So that's sort of the main workflow. You're using sports code to tag opposition, to tag your own team, and then create the presentations. So that's sort of the main bulk of work. And then, I use like a lot of data visualization for long-term player tracking and looking at opposition data as well. And that's sort of processed through a bits of Python and Tableau to try and make it as automated as possible.
Brilliant. And you mentioned there's something that was really interesting as well, not just engaging with coaching staff and delivering the data to the coaching staff, but also delivering data to the players. So do you kind of break that down in terms of if a striker's looking into key stats in terms of one-on-ones, or if a goalkeeper's looking for specific data regarding crosses, etc.? Do you go into that much detail, David?
I mean, I think it's quite personal. Some players absolutely love the data side of things and watching their clips back, and some don't, and that's absolutely fine. It's their preferences, and we give them what we think they need to know. And then some players like to have more, and it's sometimes they're interested. How many duels am I winning? How many shots am I getting off? And how do I compare to the rest of the league? So it's sort of, that I've got the resources there for the player. It's just how can we give that information to them, and do they enjoy it really?
Fantastic, brilliant. And from my side, like I say, I think you've got no ceiling in terms of the progression of your career moving forward, in terms of how you come across professionally. From the first call that we had, David, you took everything on board. Nothing was left behind, and we put everything into this kind of journey with you moving forward. And I've got no doubts that in time, obviously, the trajectory of your career will only go one way. So listen, thank you so much for being on the inaugural member meets. From my side, what advice would you give anybody who was in your position in terms of taking that first step into football at professional level?
So, yeah, what I would say is get writing. That's my initial biggest tip. If you've got no experience, you're coming in, or being a performance analyst looks amazing, I want to start, just write. Don't necessarily write about Man United. You can write about Finland, write about Cameroon, like just write about football.
Yep.
And especially on using like LinkedIn, people see like the amount of professional people at the top levels of the game that will see your posts, and all it takes is one person to say, oh, that's great. And initially starting out for me, I got loads of fantastic messages from people in the game that really keep the motivation going. So get writing. Once you've sort of built up a bit of an audience, potentially then go message out to clubs. Look, here's some work I've done online. Do you think this could be helpful? Message. Try and get experience part-time, volunteer if it's possible within your situation, and just do everything to try and immerse yourself in the game and take a step forward, really.
Fantastic advice. And from my side, like I say, great to work with you. We look forward to keeping in touch in terms of your journey. Who have you got Saturday?
We have Colchester United away, so it's a long trip for us. So not looking forward to the bus journey, but hopefully a good game for us.
Enjoy it. And again, David, thank you so much for your time. Darren, is there anything else in terms of questions or anything that anybody sent through? Great. Brilliant. David, thank you so much. We keep in touch. And again, thank you to everybody for being on our inaugural member meets. We're looking to do this at least once a month. And like I say, hopefully giving back as much as possible to our ever-growing community. Please do join us on Jobs4Football.com or on our WhatsApp. If Darren can put up, there we go. Look at this. We have uber professional here. And also our WhatsApp as well to connect straight through to our consultants. We can click on the link here. And like I say, we look forward to engaging with you all from wherever in the part of the world you're at, and hopefully advance your careers moving forward. Thanks so much, David. Good luck against Colchester, and we keep in touch.
Yeah, been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. Cheers. Very good.